In a shocking turn of events, I just want you all to know that I'm not having a crisis over the book.
It didn't even feel like I wrote it. I was just reading it and I was getting so into it. I work with middle schoolers, so this is a very triggering number for me to see, but this is the true word count of the first draft of the book.
I'm Jay, welcome to the video. Before we get fully into the video, I just want to say I got a little microphone for Christmas, and it's the cheapest one on Amazon because that is what I requested, and lo and behold, it doesn't sound good. It's okay. I'm not sure how I feel about it. If you notice that the audio sounds really offensive in some of the clips, in my last video, I was working on The Shark Book, which is my literary fiction book about two shark divers in the Florida Keys, and it's my angel and my child, and it is quite a mess at the moment because I'm rewriting it, as I've talked about many times, and in that video, what did I say? Oh yeah, I was like, I'm gonna write the first section because I have it split into different sections. I was like, I'm gonna write the first 20,000 words even though I don't have the rest of the book figured out, and I'm gonna get in there and I'm gonna make all the lines really beautiful, and I was doing that. I got some great stuff going on in there, but I just felt really stressed because of how little I knew about the book as a whole, and I know a lot about it, but there's also a lot that I don't know because there's a lot to know about a book and I don't know everything. And I was kind of feeling frustrated because I've been working on this version of the book for like 2 months, and I felt like I just wanted to start drafting, and I was like, it's a second draft, why is it taking so long? And then I realized that the word draft in my head was really messing with me, and I was thinking of it as, a second draft, so in theory it should take less time than the first draft, or at least I should feel a little further along. But as I've mentioned many times, it's a complete rewrite, and I think I really just need to separate this version of the book from the first version and just acknowledge that this is a brand new story. And I was getting impatient because the Shark Book as a whole, including the first version of the story, I've been working on that for about a year now. And so I was kind of trying to rush and start making progress on this second draft because I was like, it's been already over a year and I'm back at square one. And then I realized that this book is it's a baby. I've been working on this book, like the Shark Book 2.0 with my new mood board. I've only been working on that for about 2 months. And so I'm not taking too long. I don't need to rush. And there is no too long, obviously, but like, girl has a dream, And I was like, just a little worried if every book was going to take me years and years and years before I even let anyone else see it. I was getting in my head and I didn't want to slow down, but deep down I knew I needed to slow down. So I have decided, as you might have seen earlier, to take a break from the Shark Book and work on Grace, which I will talk all about later. But yeah, I'm taking a break from the Shark Book, and in a shocking turn of events, I just want you all to know that I'm not having a crisis over the book. Over the shark book, I mean. I'm not feeling like it's horrible. I'm not feeling like it's a disaster. I just realized that because it's a new book, I just need to honor my process. And I have noticed a pattern where when I'm thinking of a book, when I first think of it and I'm brainstorming it, I usually do that for about a month or 2 months. And then I have a lot of stuff figured out at that point, but I'm too close to figure out everything. So I usually take a break and work on something else. And then when I come back, it's all very clear and I can finish the outline and then I can start drafting. And basically, we're at that 2 month point, and I have hit a lot of roadblocks. And I was trying to just avoid the roadblocks and start drafting, but I would feel a lot better if I just got some of those major things figured out before I start drafting, even though I'm not drafting super, super strictly, and I'm still gonna be discovery drafting a lot of it. But there was just a lot of unknowns, and I'm a very type A person, and I don't like that. So I realized, okay, I brainstormed, I got the new world figured out, I got the new arcs, I got a lot of it figured out, but there's just stuff that I'm too close to. And the thing that kind of pushed me over the edge to take the break and realize this was that I was making choices based on what would be easiest. Yeah, basically I was cutting corners and I was like, oh, I think I'll just make this choice because it just seems easier than figuring something better out. And I was like, girl, what are you doing? So I'm letting it sleep and yeah, I feel great. So I don't know the next time I'm going to work on the shark book. I don't have a deadline in mind. I just feel like when I feel ready to go back to it, I'll go back to it. In the meantime, I'm working on Grace. I actually already filmed a clip the other day of me talking about Grace and telling you about it. But just for now, what I want you to know is that I wanted to start working on Grace because it feels very, like tonally, it just feels less demanding when I write it. It feels like easier because it's a lot more cut and dry than the shark book, which I'll talk more about this later. But it just feels like something that's going to be refreshing for me to work on. And I had been brainstorming it a couple months ago in between drafts of the shark book. And like usual, I got a lot of it figured out and then I kind of hit a roadblock. And now I feel ready to go back and sort everything out and really get a solid outline and start drafting it. So I'm very excited. I feel like I haven't talked about Grace very much, but I would not be surprised if it ends up being the first book that I query because it's going to be a lot shorter than the shark book, I think, and it just feels easier to write and I feel like I know what I want it to accomplish. And I don't feel those things about the shark book just yet because it's so fresh. So yeah, you'll be hearing a lot more about Grace in the coming vlogs and in this very vlog. I think that's everything. So we can get on with the video. Goodbye.
Don't fall on my head. I'm terrified. Hello, everyone. Welcome to my bed. So, I need to tell you guys more about Grace. You have heard me blabber on about my beautiful shark book, but my shark book is sleeping. So, Grace. Also, I'm so sorry about this microphone. I don't know if it should be closer or further from my mouth. So, I'm going to do both throughout. So, at least some of it's going to sound good. Grace is my other literary fiction book that is in the works. It is about a special ed substitute teacher named Elle, which my name is Jay, which is also a letter, and I'm also a substitute special ed teacher. This is no coincidence. This book is not autobiographical because there is this hot guy in it, and that's not in real life at all. So it's not autobiographical, but of course it's inspired by my real life. I'm so scared you're gonna fall on my head. So Elle is a special ed substitute teacher, like I said, and she meets this aide who I call them aides in my videos because I feel like that's a little more of a term that like you common folk would know, but we call them para educators in the classrooms. In short, we just call him paras. So I'm going to call him a para just so you know what I'm talking about. But basically, he just helps with the kids. She meets his para, and his name is Sammy, and he's the brother of one of the kids in one of the classrooms. I'll talk a little bit more of like what it's about, but that's kind of one of the things I need to figure out. But tonally, if you guys want to know more about the book, it's a lot like, well, not a lot like, but tonally, it's a lot like Gifts of the Body, which is this book that I read in college, and it's about an AIDS caretaker. And I loved that book. It was my favorite thing we read. And I actually read it in 2 different classes. And I was going so crazy in the discussions because I just loved that book so much. And tonally, I want this book to feel like that, in the sense that it's not flowery. It's definitely not trying to be poetic in the language, and it's very much just observational. So I spent the nights so far reading through my brain dump document and anything that I had drafted when I'd been working on this book a couple months ago, and I was so proud of myself because especially what I drafted, it was really good. And I didn't remember writing some of it, and I was like, "Oh, this is poignant. Isn't this poignant?" There's a scene between Elle and Sammy where they're talking at this location. I don't know. I don't know. Mostly they're in the classroom, but they are not always in the classroom. But they were talking, and it was so good. It didn't even feel like I wrote it. I was just reading it, and I was getting so into it. And I was like, oh my God. Yeah, I'm feeling good about this. And I was looking at a lot of what I had planned, and I really like some of the stuff that I'm going to explore. But I will say the reason I kind of stopped working on Grace, one of the reasons I stopped working on it to start working on the shark book, was that I felt like there was something missing. Mostly it's my main character, Elle. I think her motivation is a little not, I didn't, there isn't one. Well, I don't know. I kind of like, she has these feelings about herself and about life, and it kind of informs how she acts, but I wanted her to have a more fleshed out home life, and it kind of what's it called, informs her outlook on the world. But I have this bad habit of wanting to save things for this book called The Fish Book, which I had a different author tube channel once upon a time, and I was working on the fish book in that on that channel, and it is we're not going to get into the fish book right now, but I love that book and I'm going to come back to it, but it was such a mess and it needed a complete overhaul. But I have all these ideas for it. And in my notes app, I'm like, this is for the fish book. And I have all these ideas for it. But in reality, I don't know what the fish book is going to be. So I think I just need to focus on what's going to make Grace the best book that it can be. And so I need to stop saving stuff for the fish book. Like, oh, this kind of parental situation would be really good, or this kind of internal flaw would be great. But I'm like, no, I'm saving it for the fish book. But like, what fish book? There is no fish book. It's a mess. And I think I just need to stop being so stingy. So I'm trying to pull back and just think about what would inform my main character's arc. And does she even have an arc? I don't know. But like, what would help her? Because I know what she's gonna do in the story. She has a little secret thing that she's doing in the book, and oh, that sounds very sinister. It's not. It's not anything bad. But she has something she's doing, and I just need to think, kind of work backwards, and think why would she do that? Like, what would make someone do that? Um, and if it happens to be something that I wanted to use in the fish book, then I'll figure out stuff for the fish book when that comes along, but I need to just focus on this book individually. Um, but yeah, I have this problem with all my books. I'm always trying to save stuff for later, but the time is now. So yeah, I felt like her motivation was a little lacking. But in previous videos, when I talked about Grace, I was discussing how I was really worried about the theme and what the theme was going to be. And I wanted to figure that out before I started writing so that the theme could kind of inform my character's actions and just what happens in the book. But I was thinking about it more, and I'm okay. Like, I was reading over what I had in my brain dump and my document, and it doesn't feel as incomplete as I thought, aside from Elle's motivations. But thematically, it it doesn't have a message. It's not like teaching a lesson like a fable, but it gets you thinking, and it feels like it's saying something, but I don't know exactly what it is. Like, one of the things it's dealing with is trying to find meaning when there isn't meaning, like, because I'm not religious at all, and neither are my characters. And so when you don't have this idea of a higher power giving you meaning, it's like, where do you find meaning? when really it's all kind of random. That's one of the things my book deals with. So but the book doesn't make sense, I can just say, oh, it's meaningless, just like life. And then the agent will be like, oh, okay, yeah, I want it. I want it now. Thanks for saying that. I feel really good about it, and I'm very excited to keep working on it. I have to go to bed. I have my anxiety medicine appointment tomorrow. It might make me a worse writer, though, if I don't have all this torment. Yeah, I'm gonna go to bed. I'm gonna keep working on this tomorrow. Bye. Love you. Welcome to my goals interlude, because it is the end of the year or the beginning of the year, depending on when I put this up. And it's time for us to reflect, and it's also time for us to dream. So here we go. Starting off with writing, I first want to do a little writing recap. The first book I'm going to talk about, I was working on before I started this channel. I call it the Fish Book, which I know is a little confusing because there is a shark book as well, but the fish book is completely different. It takes place in Alaska, and my main character is named after a fish. Basically, I got halfway through the second draft of that book this year before I realized that it just needed a complete overhaul, and I just couldn't do it at the time, so I set it aside. But before I did, this year I wrote 45,000 words of it, which was like very shocking to me when I saw that stat, because that was just a complete blur in my mind. But yeah, I wrote 45 words of it, and I'm pretty proud of what I wrote. I think it's has a lot of potential, but there were so many issues, and I just thought, you know what? Let's turn to the sharks. But 45 words of the fish book at the beginning of the year, and then I turned to the shark book. And if you'll notice, this is the mood board that I used to use because it fits more with the first version of the shark book. So I wrote an entire draft of the shark book this year. I think I wrote it from about March to September, or maybe March to August. And I checked the word count on that document, and this is really devastating that this is the word count. I work with middle schoolers, so this is a very triggering number for me to see, but this is the true word count of the first draft of the book. And I mean, we know all about the journey that the shark book is going on, but I am proud of the first draft because it opened my eyes to what the book should really be. So I worked on that for most of the year, and then when I was done with it, I moved on to Grace. And Grace was a book that I thought of this year, like the idea. I conceptualized it this year, and then I brainstormed it and I started drafting, and I got about 6,000 words into the first draft, but it's very out of order and just kind of whatever scenes I was feeling called to write. So the word count doesn't really matter, but there are about 6,000 words of it. And that's the book I'm working on right now. And then after Grace, I moved back to the Shark Book, but it's kind of a new book, like we've talked about. So it's Shark Book 2.0 with this new mood board. And I sort of was drafting in the brainstorming process, but I don't really think of myself as having drafted anything concrete for this book. But just so you understand how serious this brainstorming document is, I was adding up all of the words, and it's over 40,000. Like, I stopped at a certain point, but it's at least 40,000 words. So not that it's pretty words, but I was really just like, I was writing these men's lives, which is kind of why I needed to take a break, because that is a lot. Let's move on to our 2026 writing goals. I don't really have anything too fancy for this. Number one, I want to finish a draft of 2 different projects. I'm thinking that'll probably be a draft of the Shark Book and a draft of Grace, but who knows, if the fish book comes out of nowhere, that is totally fine. But yeah, I just want to have a completed draft of 2 different projects. And then my other goal is that I want to have a draft of a project ready to get feedback. So I want to be able to send it to a beta reader and just have it be clean enough that I'm ready to get outside feedback, because at that point I should be pretty far along in the process, because I will not be sending a whole manuscript unless I'm really proud of it. Yeah, I wanted to start querying a book this year, or this upcoming year, but I just don't know if that's possible. I think it's probably not, so I didn't put it on here, but I want to get pretty close in the process and kind of be honing in on my first book that I'm going to query. So that is it for the writing section. What is next? Oh, moving on to reading, my 2025 reading wrap up. I read 44 books this year. Here's a really hard to see collage. You can't really see anything, but if you want to look at the books, here they are. Most of these books I really liked. There were only a couple, maybe like not six or seven or eight books in here that I didn't love. But I got really good this year at DNFing books because I was really busy and I didn't want to be spending time reading books that I hated. And I used to have this bad habit of once I had gotten a certain amount into a book, I would just push through to the end because I felt like I was wasting time if I didn't finish it. But it's just not worth it, especially with how stressed I am about like picking up on another author's voice. If I don't like a book, I am very cutthroat these days about just putting it down. So, yeah, I love most of the books I read this year. And that takes me to my 2026 reading goal. I don't ever pick a reading goal that's like how many books I want to read because I just don't know what's going to happen in my life. But I just want to continue reading books that I really love. So, even if I read one book a month, if it's a really good book and I hyperfixate on it and learn from it, then that's fine with me. I just want to read. My reading goal is to read. Okay, and then my 2026 AuthorTube goals, well, my 2025 goal was just to start a channel. So that was a rousing success. And my 2026 goal, I have two of them, and they go together. Number one is to buy a camera, because right now I just film on my phone. And then number two is to make cinema. And what do I mean by this? Right now, the videos I make are just the videos that I can afford to make. And I don't mean monetarily, although kind of, because I don't have a camera. I just don't have the setting right now to make videos that I'm really proud of. I'm living in my parents' house. I moved back to my childhood home and I'm just in the suburbs. There's not really much going for me here. And I love my little room, but it's not really my vibe and it's not really something that I want to put out onto the internet. Like it's just not, I don't know. I feel like I have a certain vibe that I want to achieve, but I don't have that at the moment. So right now I think of my videos as kind of scrapbook videos of just what my life is like at the time because I just want to document my writing. But halfway through the year this year, I'm moving and I'm moving somewhere very beautiful. And when I go there, I want to buy a camera and I want to start making videos that I'm actually proud of, much like these beautiful ladies who I will put on the screen. But and there's more too, but these people make really pretty videos and they have a really nice vibe and they're really well thought out. I also want to get an editing software because right now I just use this one on my phone that's not great. I'm content with what I'm making now, but in the future I would like to make videos that I really like. Last but not least is the personal section, which is the shortest section and it's also my favorite. I don't have a lot of personal goals because I kind of like my reading goals. I just don't know what's going to happen this year. However, there is one thing that I would really love to achieve, and that is to master a transatlantic accent. If you don't know what this accent is, it's like how they used to talk in black and white Hollywood movies. I just really want to whip this out at all moments and just be like, watch out, world. Okay, yeah, that's it for my goals section. Comment down below your goals, your life goals, your writing goals, your reading goals, any goals that you have. I support you in them. Okay. Mwah. So I have just been writing for the past hour and a half, and I mentioned when I was in my bed with you guys the other day that I was having a little bit of trouble with my main character Elle's motivation. And so one thing about her that I didn't mention is that she's a writer as well. And it's getting very autobiographical, isn't it? But she's a writer, and I was trying to figure out her motivation for wanting to write. And I think I nailed something down. Without getting too much into it, it's kind of just a way for her to work through things.
So I got that, but then I am still a little fuzzy on her, like her past and her upbringing and why she is the way she is. Although I don't really know how much I'm going to dive into it in this book because that's not really what the book's about. I don't really know what the book's about, but I don't really want it to be about that. So I think I'm more just gonna hint at things. Yeah, I gotta work on that. And then also something I'm trying to work with is okay, so I mentioned that there's another character named Sammy. So there's Elle and then there's Sammy. And Sammy does not show up until the second act of the book. And I'm having trouble, not trouble, I just want to be cautious of making the first half boring, and I feel like my main character is not that she's not very active necessarily. Like she has a goal, but the way the book is right now, at least, she's already failed at the goal before the book even starts, and she's kind of aimless for the first part of the book, which is fine, but I just want to make sure the beginning isn't too boring. So I think I'm just going to do that by first of all making sure it's not that long and I'm not lingering there for longer than we need to, and then also I'm just going to pick interesting details because like I said, she's a substitute teacher, so she goes to a lot of different classrooms and I don't need to narrate every single classroom she goes to. I just need to pick the most interesting ones. So that's a challenge, but I'm up for it. So I was working on figuring all of that out, and then toward the end of my writing session, I started writing the last scene of the book because I have this vision for how it ends. I don't know if it's gonna work, but I kind of like it and I kind of want to work backwards from it. So I started writing the ending, and the banter was good, and the message, well, there wasn't really a message, but just like the lack of message was good. And yeah, I think I'm going to keep working on that later, but I wanted to wrap up the vlog because I want to edit it tomorrow. So, good night, world. Mwah.